Where is my channel? Right. Okay, now that I have seemingly got everything sorted, for those of you who are jumping on now, and hi, Juliana. I had some technical issues with Zoom. I had technical issues with Facebook. So here I am on YouTube. So I'm waiting for people to carry on over to see, to kind of start. So Liliana, how have you been while we wait for the rest? Okay. So Emily, hopefully Emily's here. I don't know whether to trust the thing or not. That's good. That's good. So I'm waiting for, oh, hi, Emily. Thank you. So I'm just going to quick go into some things that I've been experiencing in January to kind of give us an idea as to where we are in this process that we're going through. Yeah. I don't know what was going on tonight. I have to figure that out. I kept hearing, you should try it before you get to 7 o'clock. And I said, no, I can do it. Yeah, maybe I should just take that, right? So tonight I'm going to do a reading of the current energy and just give an idea as to like what I've been experiencing with the current energies that we have going on. While there's a lot happening in the collective, I'm really focused on what is happening individually, and there's a lot of stuff happening individually, unless you have a really good meditation practice and can go in and really tap into what's going on, you may not understand some of the things that are happening. From my standpoint, I feel like we're at the tipping point, at the point where our higher selves will really start to embody themselves into physical being. I have been having experiences in the last week really where it really starting to show that that's what's going to happen. Now, if you're not there, that's okay. It's just we're all at different places. But I do know from talking to clients that there's quite a few people that are going through similar things. So there's a couple of things in play. There's that in play. There is also, many of us have either lived future timelines or we have ancestors that have lived future timelines, and those memories are in our DNA. So there are a lot of people, including myself, who are having a hard time grounding into the energy of 2022 because our cells remember, let's say, some not so great things that have happened on 2022 timelines in the future that are no longer relevant. So I have a course, I think next week, on weaving the 2022 energy of future timelines that no longer exists, so we can get you onto a new one that doesn't have all that stuff on it. It could be personal, it could be group consciousness. I've seen both. So if you find yourself not being able to ground or stay grounded, you should muscle test to see if there's something that your cells remember about 2022 that you don't want to ground into. For my experience, my digestion pretty much came to a roaring halt. And in working through that, I was pretty much saying to myself, well, if I'm sick, I don't have to pay attention. And no one wants to manifest that. That's an awful way to be. And we are the creators of our reality, so we can shift timelines so we don't have to be tied to those things anymore. As for the higher self piece, I'm offering a three-day challenge next week to go a little bit deeper into this. And that's why I'm going to really focus on the reading, since why I'm shuffling the cards. And if you've been feeling like time is just, I don't know, New Year's feels like it was months ago to me. Who else is feeling that? Like literally, like I'm like, oh, like last weekend I was like, oh, New Year's. That was like weeks ago. And then I was like, and I would hear my guide say, it was last week. And I'm like, it was. And I'm having a really hard time feeling like I'm in time. It's really hard to, it feels weird. I feel like I am in time, but I'm not in time. And I have to remind myself a lot, like what day of the week it is. Thank God for Google Calendars. I'd be lost because I really have no idea what day it is. Never forget the date. I had to look up today's date. But that will happen more and more as we raise up into the higher frequencies above the third and fourth dimensions, because in the fifth dimension or higher, time doesn't exist like we know it today. It's not linear. It's literally all happening at once, and which is why we're getting this warped time thing, because we are starting to exist in both places. And the way the world works in that fifth dimensional higher is entirely different than the third dimension, but yet we still work in the third dimension. Like we still exist here. Many people still have jobs to go to. Many people have places to be, doctors, friends that still live in the 3D. So we're still having to partake in this world where time is linear, but yet our frequency and our higher selves are like, yeah, I'm not playing the time game anymore. I'm over here. And there's a problem with the blending. It's like, they're saying it's like when you blend red and brown, you get just mud. And that's kind of like where we are. We're in the mud between the transition that's happening within us between this third dimension, fifth dimension thing. So beyond that is there's also this element of feeling like you're in a tug of war between, I was saying this to somebody, I feel like there's a tug of war between the thoughts in my head that tell me that I can't do it and my higher self telling me to run. And I couldn't understand really why. I mean, I've always had those. It's normal, I think, for society, for most people to hear that voice that says, you can't do this, you're too old, you don't know enough, you're not special enough, all those things. But it had been pronounced. And I literally was having like emotional breakdowns because I was like, I don't know if I'm coming or going. Like 1 minute I'm here, 1 minute I'm here. And it was like something was trying to rip me in pieces from inside. And when I asked my guides, like, what the hell is happening? I was shown that I've had a dream where I was a duck and I was being stalked by a tiger. And the tiger was the low self. The duck was what they call the middle self. And the duck was doing its thing, no big deal. And the minute it tried to fly, and the tiger was kind of stalking me, the minute that duck tried to fly, that tiger would attack me. And that's that negative voice that comes in when it says, oh, you can't do that. You can't fly. You need to taper down and do your own stuff and be that. And there was all this feathers and everything in the dream. And then I realized that the tiger didn't have me. I had been picked up by a hawk. And they landed on the ground with me. And I was like, what? That's my higher self saying, like, get yourself out of that. But it's that middle place, which is our middle self, which is our consciousness, that's being torn between these two things. Your higher self wants to have more control, or more, that's not the right word, but more access to you. And in that, he or she will help you magnify your energetics so you can attract what you really want with more ease. Instant manifestation is not a pipe dream. People have this all the time. But when the low self is in play, it pulls you right out. Like you can't connect to that anymore because your low self is telling you can't do it. And while that's always been the case, it's been super, super, super magnified since January 1st, really. Hi, Wyatt. And you have to start, we really have to start trying to understand how to break that tug of war, because the lower self doesn't want to give up the fight. It understands what is going through. And in shamanic practices, they talk about the little death, where you have to go through a death doorway in order for you to be able to awaken to your next step. And in a way, this is that little death, but there's not actually a physical death. Your lower self has to die in the version that it currently is in. And in a way, your middle self as well. And there is this cemented thing that is saying, nope. And I feel like the closer I get, like the noose is starting to come around my neck, and the I don't know what to call them, the slides between the higher self and the lower self are becoming really extreme, where when I connect to the higher self, the energy I've been feeling, especially yesterday, was insane when I finally got myself really into that higher self energy. But then the lower self comes around faster and slaps me in the head more than normal, because the two of them are in a battle between each other. So you have to do the inner work to figure out what is causing that battle to happen between you, because it's not a consciousness thing. There was a time and a place where the higher self was in our physical bodies way back when, say Lemuria-ish, and it was disconnected because of dimensional shifts, and the lower self was created to keep us safe while the higher selves tried to figure out how to interact with our physical bodies while they were in our higher chakras. So the low self's been pretty much the main gig for centuries. And now the higher self wants back in, and the lower self's like, no. So there is a place for the lower self. The lower self controls your heart beating, your lungs beating, your digestion. So it can't go away. That's that part of you that runs the physical vessel. But it does need to shift to allow the higher self to come in. So in the program that I'm starting next week, it's a free program. It's 3 days, and it's in the Facebook group. But if you, I'll put the link in the description for this, because you can watch it through Zoom if you don't want to be on Facebook. And I'll go deeper into the things that we need to start doing so that we can start to tweak our lower self and middle self to allow more of the higher self to come in. It's not going to be a full bang. I'll talk to people like, well, when is my higher self going to fully integrate? And it's not that easy, because it's like, they're showing me how it's like getting new clothes tailored for you. You know, back in the day, you would have to go for multiple fittings. It's almost like that. He or she will come in. They'll do checks to see if your frequency is high enough for them to stay in the body, or what needs to still shift. See if there's emotions that need to be cleared, limiting beliefs, traumas, whatever it is. But also the physical body has to shift so that it can better mirror who you're becoming. But the low self has to allow it. And there's like this, I almost can tell when that's happening because I'll unground. It's the first thing that the low self will do is like cut the cord. And then my high self can't come in because there's no anchor. So that's where we are. And again, that I'll go into that more in next week's class. So the 3-day class is Monday night at 7. I think it's the 24th. Thursday night at 7, the 27th, and then the 31st at 7. Because I mean, I'm seeing it myself, but I've seen it in my clients in the past week or two. So I also know that I'm not the only one who's going through this. And if it can be feel really self-defeating when that voice comes in, that low self voice, and it just beats you over the top of the head and makes you feel defeated, like you don't know what you're doing, you're crazy, why are you doing this? And it's just because it feels like it's losing. Okay, so we're going to do 3-card read using the Enchanted map by Collete, Baron-Reid. On the current energy, this is from a group collective point. There is not. Higher selves have been both male and female. I say she because I'm a she, and that's how I see my higher self. She shows herself as usually as a Egyptian high priestess. I usually see her as. So if he or she shows, I try to say he or she as much as I can, because I know it's not one or the other, and I'm not comfortable with saying the higher self as an it. It's just like God to me is neither male or female or source, but I haven't figured out a good word to use besides, it. What's the neutral point? So if I say he or she, it's just where my brain is, and there's not one or the other. And since I was Roman Catholic, it's been ingrained in me that source is male, which I know is not true. Okay, so we're going to do 3 cards. Let's write these cards on. One more. Any questions? Okay. So I did one I think I did one last week, and there's similar cards. And they kind of go in the same order. So the first one that came up is this is stuck in the mud. And I think this goes along with what I was just talking about the low self being the mud. And the elephant is like that. What's on top? A bird. We're the bird. That elephant, let's say, is our middle self. Like how big and strong we are. But we're stuck in the mud. And this is all of the fear and anger. And I'm not just talking about the group collective, but potentially within us. I'm talking about the fear of what happens when I get out of the mud and I allow my higher self to integrate more fully. What happens to me? Yeah, conscious self, the ego still in play a little bit, not a little bit, a lot of it. And it likes to have a definition of where we're going. It's something that's inbred in us in this society, at least in the United States, from a young age, is that you need to know where you're going and then you take the steps to get there. And in the current lay of the land, we are not being shown where we're going. So we have to get out of this to allow this bird to come in, this little teeny bird, to integrate into us so that we can become who we're supposed to become. But there's no plan, there's no blueprint, there's no curriculum, if you would like to call it. Yes, all of those things. It's the heavy stuff that we, yes, it's partially those things. But the other thing, to me, lack of control is probably the biggest one. The fear of the unknown. I hear that a lot. I'm afraid of the unknown. This journey we're on, we've never done this before. This has never been done like this before. Anytime your higher self was done with a lifetime, you got a death door, you went through, and then you were born as an infant at some other later time and place, or maybe in the past. We're not doing that again. This lifetime, you get to rebirth your higher self, another chapter into this lifetime now, without having a death door. Now, many people are choosing to not do this and leave in a death door, and that's fine. But many of us have already chosen before we were born that we would not take a death door, and we would go through this in order to shift the whole of Earth, if not the universe. So we literally have to get out of our own ways. We have to stop looking for a solution that is less painful. This stuck in the mud doesn't have to be painful. It's only painful because we're stuck and we're not willing to look what is preventing us from allowing that bird, that little teeny bird on top of the elephant to show us how to fly. I mean, it's a great card for the whole low self, middle self, higher self. But what is preventing you from allowing your higher self to show you how to live life in a different way? To live life in even embracing impossibility, things that would seem impossible to the current middle self and low self, that your higher self is like, that's nothing. Because he or she is not limited by third dimensional consciousness. They don't exist in that. So let's say, I think some have, but years ago, before we've even gotten here, God, it's been a long time. I remember sitting on the sofa and I heard the higher self would be rebirthed into the physical being. And I had no idea what that was. I mean, fifth plane ascended masters from a theta healing standpoint, there are many of them here on Earth now, but they came back in infants and we're having to relearn or remember how to get back there. But the difference is there's no amnesia. So, this great thing called amnesia, we're born and then we forget who we are and we spend 40, if not 50 years trying to remember who the hell we are. That won't be the case. We're going to remember who we are fully. And many children coming in tonight at this point, and actually for a couple of years, don't have amnesia. They remember who they are, which is an awesome thing. There is a purification of the material world, but it's the emotional letting go of things. So it's not getting rid of your house or your items. It's about emotionally letting them go. And that sometimes is harder than actually physically letting things go. But that's what I've been shown. Everyone has different, and that's okay. And that's actually a great thing, Uliana, because one of the things that comes up is in sessions is that people need to let go. And it isn't even letting go of physical things. It's letting go of the old self. depending on how big these changes are in our physical appearance or how we operate once this happens, and we'll each do it individually, will our families accept us? Will our families understand what has happened to us? Will our families follow us? And not follow us, but at least give us the space to do what we're here for. And I know, from my client perspective, there are definitely clients where their families are not on board with what they're currently doing. So the idea that they would change in any way scares them because they don't want to lose family. And it's mostly family, right? And sometimes that's one of the hardest things. And you have to trust that your higher self already has that in play, right? Before you were born. And you can go in and ask, not how I'm going to change, because I don't think that that's something they will share with you, but you can ask, are my relationships going to be okay? The ones I really need, like my sons or daughters, grandkids, will I still be able to have a relationship with them even after this? And yes, we have to make peace. Forgiveness is key on all of it. Forgiveness is a big thing. And if you can wrap your brain around what forgiveness is, you will have a great power within you. But letting go is the last piece. Well, I don't know. It's one of the pieces. I think we're all processing them in a different order, because I'll go from forgiveness to letting go to forgiveness to letting go. That was some anger to deal with. And you got to just follow what I call breadcrumbs. But if we can truly let go, this is going to happen. And it's going to happen in, I'm seeing it happen in intervals with myself. So in the last 2 weeks, I have experiences where my higher self is bleeding through 2 ways. One, my writing has changed. My writing used to look like doctors. I hated when they wanted me to write anything down, because I couldn't read what I wrote. And the other night I was writing something down and I could read my handwriting and it was clear. And I was like, wait. And then I was talking to somebody the other day and my voice changed. And it happened again later on that day. And I just thought, oh, this is what that's going to be like. It's like peeking through. It's like, to me, like testing the systems to see if they're ready to be for go time, if you will. But in that, your higher self is also testing whether will you fight that or will you let it be what it is? So when, your handwriting change, I guess isn't a big a deal, but when you start to notice your voice changes, what is your reaction going to be to that? And if you can hear it, other people are going to hear it. Yeah, my tone is definitely changing. And there are times when it's more than a tone. I can't explain it, but it's happened several times. And it may happen when I start channeling in a bit, because my higher self is bleeding through. But this is a good example of what would you do if those things started to happen? Would there be resistance? And that's part of the letting go piece. So that's part of this need to not only let go of physical items, whether it's houses or jobs, emotionally. I'm not talking about actually quitting jobs or getting rid of money. That's not what I'm talking about at all. It's the emotional piece. Are you ready to let go of who you have been for the last, 40, 30 years or whatever you've been on the planet? Not just what you're doing, but actually physically. So that's starting to happen. for me, and I'm sure there's people who have already experienced this. This is just where I am in the process. But if you have any reservation of that happening in the mud, you're just going to make it harder. And it's going to happen. I don't think you can stop it at this point. I think there will be physical changes. I just don't. First of all, I've talked about this before, with any of you that are using the light therapy patches that I use. Your body, our bodies, our higher selves want us to be younger than we are now, because he or she wants the endurance. They want to be able to have the flexibility and strength in the body. They want to have all their brain functionality together. Now our brains are awakening. Instead of us using something like 20% of our brain, we're going to get to a point where it's pretty close to 100, if not totality. So our body's been able to heal itself much, much, much faster. And that's what our higher selves want. They want that. So let's say maybe your higher self wants you to be thinner. I would love if my higher self would like me to be thinner. Maybe your higher self doesn't want to wear glasses anymore. Maybe your higher self wants, I don't know, I don't know if your eye colors will change. I have no idea. But I keep hearing that my hair will change colors. Not gray, which, it's happening, but something else. So those changes, and I guess hair color isn't a big deal because us ladies like to color our hair, so who would know the difference? But the physical changes, I think our eyes, beyond eyesight, because I wear contacts, being able to see clearly, I do think that the eyes, the intensity of the energy of the eyes will change. And this is just, your eyes will have more presence. Like your higher self will appear in your eyes. So it's nothing to be afraid of. It's just an acknowledgement of, oh, now I'm already 6 feet tall. I'm hoping that does not mean I get taller. I'm good with that. But I do think that there are some changes that will come through. And Emily, I know, you're new on the block per se. And while it may seem shocking to you, your higher self agreed to this before you were born. So she's got you. And you know where you can ask questions, right? So that's that card. The next card was upside down, and this is One Ring Circus. And this is for all of us who feel like we've been doing all the work on our own, alone, trying to get this all done, to hibernate, or, that's pretty much what I do in the winter, or feel like no one gets you and there's no one else like you, and that you have to weather the storm on your own. And that is ending. You will find that more and more of your soul family will be drawn to you, and that you will come together to do whatever purpose you and them agreed to before you were born. And that is going to start happening. So I keep feeling like there's something with the equinox this year, around March 22nd, that most of us will have an idea as to what that looks like by then. What does this mean where I'm no longer having to hibernate in my home, or hibernate in meditation or wherever, and be together with these people that just, it seemed like they've always known you. Or maybe they're people who all of a sudden show up with money so that you can create the dream that you have. As an example, let's say you want to open a wellness center. You may well know how that happens by March. Or school, or whatever else it is that's pondering through your mind. I sense that these 3 months are really, there's a lot of change, January, February, March within us. in order to prepare for after the equinox. And then the last one, this is upside down. This is goblins, which kind of goes along with the first card. And goblins are just probably what you think they are. Oh, it was upside down. They're saying it wasn't upside down. So goblins are all the people in your ears telling you that you need to do A, B, C, D, and E. Exactly. Distractions. There's a lot of people out there who still aren't taking responsibility for their own life. I was going to say shitstorm. And they're looking to blame and or manipulate others into believing their story instead of you trusting your intuition. You know, all the answers that you seek are within you. But many people, whether they're doing it on purpose or not, I don't really know. I don't know if some people are that aware. Some are, some aren't. And we need to stop listening to them and start listening to what our heart tells us is true. Start listening to what our higher self says is true, what source says is true. Because there are a lot of threads in play right now, and a lot of them are not real. They are either complete falsehoods or they happen in another timeline, say Atlantis, and memories are coming back now of that time, which brings up fear. But really what your higher self is doing is asking you to forgive those timelines so they don't exist anymore. There's that forgiveness word, right? With forgiveness, you can wipe a timeline from existence, from you, so that you can learn for it and move on without all the emotional baggage crap that comes with it. That's really what forgiveness is about, is you dropping the emotional baggage that you got from whatever incident happened that you've been carrying, not just in this lifetime, but potentially past lifetimes. And when you start really offloading those things, your frequency gets higher and higher and higher, easier and easier, but making up bigger blocks. So we need to, one, stop listening to other people and start listening to ourselves. It's not that so when I talk about ego, it's when I talk about the low self, in essence, that is ego. It's also the shadow self. And the ego has, to me, a purpose, but it's gotten too big for its britches. Its purpose has been ballooned over time, but also due to manipulation of beliefs, systems, and structures that have been created on Earth for centuries, since at least Atlantis, if not farther back than that. So, and all of those hooks were to strengthen the ego, which in essence keeps us here. The ego will keep you here. It doesn't want to fly. Well, I don't, and we can agree to disagree with that. I think as long as you're in a physical body, the ego has a slight purpose. And we'll see what happens with that. I think it shifts. I think it becomes, they're saying it becomes like your baby finger, or more importantly, your baby toe. It still exists, but you could probably stand pretty well without your baby toe. But yeah, it still exists. and maybe through evolution, through other timelines, it goes away. But it in this timeline, it doesn't entirely disappear. We need to shrink it so its purpose is smaller and it doesn't drive the bus anymore, to allow that higher self to come in. Because the ego doesn't want the higher self to come in. It's the low self slash shadow self slash ego. That's where that all lives. So it isn't. And in the low self, I guess the ego is part of the low self. The low self also contains some of the things that we don't want to go to sleep, say our heart beating, our lungs breathing, digestion, one of those physical things. So there is an adjustment of the energy that is happening, but it needs to find a new place. But so that's my viewpoint on it. Everyone's different. We all come from different backgrounds. We all have had different experiences on Earth. So, the wording is similar, but yet the same. So those are the map cards. They wanted me to do Starseed cards, so I'll do that. So I said, what do you want them to know? And I heard, close your eyes and ask us. So one of the things that we have to remember is that no matter where we are, whether we're stuck in the mud, whether we're listening to goblins, we need to shut off the noise and listen to ourselves. Now, if you have a problem meditating, use the solfeggio frequencies with no words and let your mind play with that as candy so that you can drop behind it and either see, sense, or know something that you're missing that your higher self can show you, or source, that will help you get to the next stepping stone, or whatever you want to call it. Because they can't help unless we ask, because on Earth we have free will. And for better, for worse, I think free will has been great. I love free will, but I also think free will has caused a lot of problems on Earth as well. The good news, I guess, in that is that in my meditations, this has been a long time ago, it was shown that we're moving to a new model, if you will. Free will still exists on Earth, but with the overarching theme of divine will, which means to me that nothing will be able to be done unless it's in accordance with Source's will or divine will, which means, to me that things like war and it can't happen because it's not in accordance with divine will. But you still get to decide your day-to-day, what career path you want to take, so forth and so on, as long as you're not hurting someone else. Okay. We're going to do 3 Starseed Oracle cards. This is from Rebecca Campbell. I haven't used this deck in a long time. For whatever reason, tonight it wanted to be shared. Emily, do you have any questions? Are you still there? It's a little different thing that I've done. I haven't done one of these in a while. I like doing them. Oh, and pay attention to your dreams. Mine are getting, I don't remember them, but I know they're very vivid. There's a lot of action happening at night, but let's hope my eyes is just gone. I'm hoping as one of the things that shifts in the next 3 months is I can remember more. So I got goosebumps reading that. So what's your answer? No, I already knew that. I was trying to keep it a secret. But yeah, the center that you saw, I'm pretty sure the school is part of that. Are you really surprised by that, Emily? I'm not. I think many of the people that I've come in contact in the last, God, how many years I've been working with these energies, that many of the people are part of my next steps. And I won't lie and say sometimes when you guys are talking about your future visions, I can sometimes see how it goes along with where I'm going. Nothing. I think you're curious about what's going on. I just want to make sure you're understanding what I'm saying, I guess. Okay, so we have the Starseed cards. I haven't used these in such a long time. The first card is Messenger. And I kept trying to figure out what this is. You think that's a woman or a man, or does it matter? Is that the higher self? I'm hearing yes. Okay. So this is the bottom, serious energy, bringing harmony and balance. Are these alphabetical? Yes. You're part of the lineage of souls who have dedicated their lifetimes to the uplift of the planet, to returning time and again to see the light. The crystalline ones, the ones who are here to plant the sacredness of life back in, to honor both the sacred feminine and masculine, to usher deep reverence back in. Many ascended masters are thought to be connected to the energy of Sirius, often appearing as a shade of blue. They hold the frequency of pure love and are here to help the masculine and feminine exist in harmony, to ensure greater balance, to help us see that we are all connected and that the masculine and feminine energies exist within us. You're being called to bring about the balance and harmony between the masculine and feminine within you, to be a guardian of harmony and balance on earth. Think of the whales traveling through the globe, sharing love through their healing vibrational song, their unique notes, and send balance and harmony to every corner of the planet. So, just quickly, we all obviously have both in this. For a long time, I was more divine masculine. My divine feminine is it's starting to come into balance. And then they have to figure out how to live together in the same house within you. So it can come in stages. But let's see. So we have Thoth. So those who don't know, that's an Egyptian god from ancient Egyptian times. He's the god of knowledge. And he's saying that you must all remember that there is a switch within you. It's never not been there. It's just been buried under centuries and centuries and centuries of sand. For a long time, you've been digging around the edges. And as you know, sometimes when you dig sand, if the piles get high enough, the sand rolls back into the hole. So many of you may feel like you've been climbing uphill backwards for a long time, never getting anywhere, the same as the sand. As you dig in the sand, the sun rails back. But you're almost at the edge. some of you can actually feel the edge. It's just below the surface. And that little bit of sand that is rolling down as you dig out is minuscule now. You've dug it all out. You're starting to feel around the edges, and the excitement of what's underneath that you can feel just below the surface is building within you. Hold on to that. Your higher self, your planning before you were born is all in play. And you will find that edge, and you'll understand what that edge is very soon. But for now, keep digging as you're guided to, allowing yourself to make inroads around that edge, so maybe you can even start to see a little bit of what is below that. And in time, you will know the full story. For now, know that your digging is working. It may not seem like it in your current world, whether in your personal life or globally, but know that it is happening. It's been written in the stars for centuries, and the time has come. Okay? Yes. Yep. Like I said, my higher self shows myself as an Egyptian priestess, but there's a reason why they keep showing me that, because I've had to work through a lot of stuff in ancient Egypt. Okay. And really acknowledging who I've been. The next one is deep cellular healing. This is the hard part. This is the digging he's talking about. Digging through all of the cellular crap that we have acquired for centuries, if not millennia, on Earth or potentially other planets, and we've inherited from our ancestors. In order for our higher selves to bridge the gap between this world and the old one, the canvas needs to be as clean as possible so she can paint, or he or she can paint a brand new picture, which means we have to dig through the crap. And sometimes as you dig farther, the stuff that comes up is worse, or I don't want to say worse, but harder to get through. And sometimes seeing beyond it is hard, but we got to keep going. As Toast said, we're almost at the edge, which is to me exciting, because I would love to, I think we'll always have to do some of that, but I think we're finally going to start to get proof of what we've been working towards. And then this card, speaking of Egypt, star ancestors. This one says at the bottom, hidden secrets, lost wisdom, look a little deeper. This is what he's talking about when he talks about the thing underneath the sand that we are just now starting to get to. It's there. I think some of us can feel it. I think some of us have an idea even what it might look like, even if it seems so far-fetched, but we have an idea. But a lot of this stuff is going to be revealed, and it's not going to come from an outside source. You are going to remember it, and it may be part of your soul's purpose that you are supposed to be the one that brings it to light. Many of this stuff is starting to trickle to the surface. I'm just looking, because in the top right-hand corner of this card, I don't know if that looks like what would be the head of Thoth. But I know in the last, month, I've wanted to give up. I was just like, I'm done. Like, I can't do this anymore. It's like every day something changes. And I was like, I just can't do this anymore. And I kept hearing, no, you can't. And it's because we're really close to this. And that ego that Ileana was talking about doesn't want us to remember this. Because this is really what puts it to sleep, when we really remember who we are. And that's not it's an identity, but it's more about who we are on the soul's level, which is not identity at all. Cool times. And I really do think that, because I get it for most people, is that spring will really start to open doors that many of us, I think, would think are impossible at this point. And that's not that far away. So we're going to do dragons next. We are going to have you pick a dragon card. I already know we have 3 dragons to play with tonight. These dragons have become more and more present with me. In client sessions, they're even showing up now. I just love their energy. There is no ego in the dragon. And in a way, it shows us, I guess, I never really thought about who we're becoming. And they all have a purpose that they strive for and help us with, but never with judgment or ego, which come hand in hand. So I never really thought about that to this moment, but that's actually a great thing. So dragons number 1, 2, and 3, I'm going to pick them, and then I will channel the message, and then we will call it a night. So Emily and Uliana, what dragon would you like a message from tonight? 1, 2, or 3? I'm going to just type that in the chat so I know. Thank you. I'm like jumping out. Okay. So the first one, I'm going to do them all because people will watch this at a later date and I want them to get the message. So this is the Serene Dragon. And the Serene. I'm going to read quickly what's in the book and then I'll channel her. This one is, I am the lapping of the waves and early morning sun. Allow me to wrap you in my blue cloak of tranquility and accept my presence. As pure calm settles around you, as your inner perception shifts, so will your outer world. Remember that tranquility you seek lies within you. The outside picture and experiences you may be suffering is all but a mirror of the turbulence inside. Call upon me to guide you to that peace of heaven which you so crave. Observe your outer life experiences change as they begin to mirror your inner feelings of serenity. Every day you make a choice as to what you choose to pay attention to. The world is noisy, full of distractions. Here or there, sometimes you don't know where to look. But around you exists an environment that is tuned to just the right frequency that would make you feel like you're in control, that you have some sense of purpose or direction. When you allow yourself to be distracted by everything else, it creates a tornado of chaos. You don't know whether you're coming or going. You don't know what direction to take. It feels hard to put one foot in front of the other because you're afraid that something else will fall down around you. The world is not falling down around you. People want you to believe that. So instead of allowing everything else to take your attention away from what truly is, Before you turn on the TV in the morning, before you look at your phone, can you allow yourself to just connect to the sounds that are around you, the world? Even in winter, there's a bird that will call. Maybe it is just the silence of the snow on the ground. If you live by the ocean, allow the waves to comfort you. It's a way of connecting to the energy that your physical body finds itself in. In a way, it's the nurturing hug of Earth as she welcomes you back from another sleep cycle. In order for you to find that serenity, that tranquility that you want, the peace, where you just want things to just stop for a moment, you have to push the stop button. No one else can do it for you. No matter how busy you are, you got to make the time for it. And when you stop, you'll find that place. You start to feel that there is more than all that noise out there. And there's a quiet coolness around you, if not in your house, outside. Even in a city, you can still find that quietness by listening to maybe the birds that are around, or even just looking at the sky and admiring the clouds in the sky. There's a deep serenity with that soft, pillowy clouds. Allow your imagination to wander. Allow yourself to see what's in the clouds. And allow yourself to melt into that knowing that you are part of it all. And find your breath and allow yourself a moment of peace. And the more you do that, the more peace you will see, not only in yourself, but in the world surrounding you. It starts with you, my dear. You must turn off the noise. Okay. So I think Emily can still hear me. It still says I'm live, so I'm not getting any errors on this end. So 1, Father Time. It's recorded too, so you can always go back. The second one is Father Time. I'm just going to channel this one because I'm fairly aware of his energy. He's already pushing through. You are not running out of time. This idea that you have missed something or that you don't have enough time to get done all the things you want to get done will only bring you pain because you'll manifest that. You can make time long, short, fat, wide, blue or red, whatever color you want, but time is a currency that you can control. You've been taught in your society that time rules over you, and in some ways more than money. You trade time for money. You trade time for days off, days to work. So while many want to say that money is what drives, it really is time, the idea of 3D time. And where you're going, time doesn't exist like that anymore. So right now I'm asking you to unwind your fingers from needing either saying things like, I need more time, I don't have enough time, to loosen your grip, to allow me, your guides, your higher self and source show you that you have more control over time than you think you do. It's only in thinking that you don't have enough that we will show you you don't. So catch yourself when you say those things and say, no, I asked to be shown how I actually have more time than I think I do. Some of you are creating time buffers, he's saying, where you're extending how long things take you because the idea of having nothing to do or extra time scares you. What would you do if you had an extra 2 or 3 hours during the day? No work, no classwork, no kids, no parents, no anything. It was just you and your thoughts. No plan. You're not going anywhere. Does that feel comfortable, or are you trying to find something else to do? You must learn that you are in control of time and that time does not control you. And then the last one, this is, you really have a hard time reading this, her name at the top. Avonberry, matriarch. So this is about, she's about the matriarchal energy. And Avonberry is a place in England that was tied to Mary Magdalene. She states, the time has come to release the chains that bind the continued pain of families, which has been passed down from generation to generation. You do not need to own this now. It is not and never was your pain to bear. There's this weird notion in your land that if the people of the past suffered, that somehow you must suffer too. That suffering has to go through time and wrap around the world, if not once, twice, 3 times, over and over and over again as a whiplashing. Instead of you or whoever is experiencing these traumas, for you to be the point that says, no, I'm not passing this forward. And I'm not talking about the stuff that you inherited from your grandparents. I'm talking about you. Through this lifetime, you have experienced trauma. Have you done the work to clear it? Or are you passing it on to the next generation? I can talk all day about how much trauma and hurt and sorrow has been caused by generational trauma that has been passed. But you need not forget that you too are part of someone else's generational trauma if you choose to. But you can make a different choice in this lifetime and say, no, I'm going to make sure I'm as clean as possible so that my children's, and on do not have to experience my fate in this life. So ancestral healing is great. Continue to do that. But don't forget that you play a part in ancestral healing as well. Okay, so this is the dragons for tonight. Thank you for those that have watched. I don't know how often I'll do these. I think it's as I'm called to do it. Next Thursday, I'll be doing the second day of that 3-day class. So there will not be one. And that will be hopefully on Zoom and in the Facebook group. I will have to figure out the tech difficulties tonight or soon. So again, thank you for listening and I hope to see you soon. Bye for now.